Hi everybody, I'm Megan Alexandria, and welcome to my IGTV and also my new YouTube channel. I am a professional psychic and astrology reader, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to get the most out of a psychic reading, whether you're the person getting the reading or doing a reading for yourself. I just wanted to share like a handful of helpful tips to help make sure that you're getting the most out of a psychic reading. So anyway, the first step is assessing whether or not you're going to be the person doing the reading. And so, we all have intuition, and a lot of us do our own tarot readings and things like that. And I read for myself too, as well as for other people, obviously. But the first thing that's important is if you're considering reading for yourself, to assess whether or not you're in an energetic place that's a good place to be doing your own reading. And so basically it's about knowing whether or not you are able to be a clear channel at the moment to get a reading, or if maybe it's time to wait. And, my best gauge for that is if I am wanting to read about something that feels like really emotionally charged for me, and so I have very big emotions or just feel very reactive about whatever it is I'm asking about, that's usually my first big indicator that I need to either wait until I can, return to a more baseline type emotional space until I'm calm and feeling neutral, which might just mean that a little bit of self-care and, of course, time to until I'm back into a place where I'm able to feel like a clear channel to do my own reading. Or sometimes it's just, that vulnerable of a subject, or just kind of that big of a deal for you, and it might not be something that you may be able to be a clear channel for yourself to do your own reading. And so for me, those tends to be like very triggery type things, things that have very, very deep wounds, or I know I have a lot of attachment around or a lot of resistance to. Those are the types of things that come up every once in a blue moon these days, but they do. And, that's when I know it's like my cue to, seek the spiritual guidance of another reader that I love and trust. And that's when I let people do readings for me. So that's, step number one is assessing whether or not you're going to be able to do your own reading, or if it's, a good idea to just get a reading from somebody else. And if you don't do your own readings, that's totally fine too. Getting readings is a wonderful treat, and, I do it too. So anyways, so after you get that out of the way, then it's about finding a reader that you feel drawn to. And this one's really important, and I don't know that a lot of people know to think about that. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, there's a lot of faces on the internet, and, a lot of people, have paid ads or whatever, and have found their way into your feed some way, somehow. And I think it's really important to, when you're deciding to get a reading from somebody, to, kind of feel around, or if you already know who you're immediately drawn to, then that's pretty clear and obvious to me, because that says your intuition is pulling you in that direction. And to me, in my world at least, there's probably a very good reason for that. So I would listen to that, number one, if you are feeling drawn to somebody. The other thing I want to say about finding a reader that you feel drawn to is that sometimes it's kind of like dating, like you might think you're really drawn to one person, and then you get a reading from them, and maybe it wasn't so. Maybe, there was something about them you were drawn to. Maybe it was the experience of, oh, wait, that's actually not my reader. Okay, well, moving on. So it kind of reminds me a little bit like dating and finding the right reader for you. And so on that note, like like much like dating, you know, relationships with readers don't necessarily have to last the, you know, duration of your life on this planet. And, you know, there might be some readers that, you know, feel great and wonderful for you to work with for a certain amount of time, and then you move on to another reader because you're drawn to somebody new. And oftentimes I find that's because, you know, there's different lessons that you're, you know, going to be learning from a different healer, or, you know, just a different modality of, you know, tapping into things. Like, maybe right now you're really interested in, you know, getting what you can out of a numerology reading, or maybe at this time it's really about, you know, looking at your astrology. Whatever it is, you know, I would definitely listen to that. And like I said, you know, be open to the fact that it can change. And sometimes you go back to a reader too. Sometimes it's like, I took a little break from, you know, this one reader I was going to for a while, and, you know, now I'm feeling like I want to go back to see that person. So number one, my biggest advice about finding a reader is making sure you tune in to, you know, what your inner guidance is saying to you about who's going to be doing your reading first and foremost. The other thing that I would say comes next in making sure you're getting the most out of reading, once you've established that, you know, you are not going to do your own reading, you're going to get a reading from somebody else, or you're going to be doing your own reading, either way, it's really important to decide what questions that you are going to be asking. And in my opinion, after, you know, being a psychic my whole life, you know, over 30 years now, and doing this professionally for quite some time, is that clear is much better. The more clear you can be on your question and your intention, the better. And what that means is being specific. I always tell people, the more specific your energy is, the more specific the energy you're going to get back is going to be. So, you know, have those things if you can. You know, decided, you know, what do I want to know about? What about that specifically, if you can? And if you need help, a good reader, I do it all the time. You know, somebody would be like, I just want to know about my love life, and I know that's what I want to know about, and so I'll help you, you know, dig into that a little bit further. You know, what is it about your love life you want to know about? Is it a specific person, or are we talking about where you're at in your path right now, or what your blocks are, things like that. But yeah, so just kind of getting clear on what you want to know is huge. And like I said, the energy that you put forth is oftentimes energy you want to get back. So if you want, you know, specific guidance and, you know, really clear direction, and you want to just feel clarity in general, getting clear on what you want to know is definitely where you want to begin. And then, so after you've decided what you want to know, it's looking at, you know, what type of reading are you called to at this time, and what type of reading, you know, might be best for you depending on your need. And that's another thing that I don't necessarily see a lot. You know, people are generally pretty good at like being drawn to like, oh, I don't know why, but I feel really pulled towards getting an astrology reading right now. That's really cool. Definitely listen to that. But you know, if you aren't sure, which happens a lot too, and they're like, oh, I'm not sure, you know, because I offer both, you know, tarot readings and phone psychic readings and also astrology readings now. People are like, oh, I'm not sure, you know, which one is the best for me at this time. And that really depends on what it is that you're wanting to look at in your life. And so I can break down some of that. You know, I am not a numerologist, so I couldn't talk to you really about numerology so much as I know that it has, you know, you can look at dates and timing and patterns in your life and things like that. If you want to look at those types of things, I know numerology can be great for that. You know, a tarot reading is absolutely great in the same way any psychic reading is, where it's like you want to know something specific about a particular event, a person, a place, a thing, you know, a decision. Tarot will point you directly to, you know, yes or no, or, you know, if you go this way, this is what it's going to look like. If you go that way, this is what it's going to look like. You know, tarot can get very, very specific. And so, you know, if you are wondering, you know, if a relationship is the most aligned thing for you, tarot will absolutely tell you that. Astrology, I like to look at as, you know, kind of a map of your soul's karmic intent in this lifetime, and a map of, you know, the lessons that you've come from, and the lessons of, you know, hopefully where you're headed, and things like that. And there's also some good timing things to get out of astrology readings too. So if you're looking at, you know, what is the most opportune time for me to be doing this particular thing that I want to do in the next year, you know, an astrology reading is great for that too. If you're wanting to look at, you know, hey, I kind of just want to know, like, what is my soul's, like, greater purpose? Like, what did I really come here to do? You know, I'm looking at, you know, a big career change, and I kind of just want some guidance as to, you know, like, what my life's work might look like, or, you know, something of that nature. Evolutionary astrology is fabulous for that. You know, and so astrology is also really, really good for, you know, working with your energetic patterns in your life and your karmic signature, and also like the archetypal patterns inside of you. And so astrology is a really great tool for, you know, just kind of looking at the evolution of your soul and where you're at, and what your blocks are, where your resistance is, and, you know, how to remedy those things. That way you can continue to expand and evolve and grow into, you know, the elevated version of you that you came here to be. So astrology is fabulous for that. And, you know, psychic readings I also do. I mean, everything I do is psychic, but the phone readings that I do, you know, those are with or without cards, and that's straight up me, you know, channeling your spirit guides and your ancestors and anybody else that wants to come through in your spirit party. And those are really fabulous if you feel like you might be, you know, receiving messages, but you're not sure what they mean, or you could really just use some, you know, loving, gentle support and guidance in, you know, the direction of your life, or, you know, you feel like you could really use like some confirmation about your path. I know a lot of people oftentimes, you know, something will happen and they'll feel like, oh, I'm not really sure if I'm on my path anymore. Your spirit guides, you know, they're fabulous for that. You know, that's their job. And so, you know, getting a straight up psychic reading with me on the phone, or with anybody on the phone, is wonderful, because, you know, it gives you that direct access, because your guides are always communicating with you, and your ancestors are always with you, and you're always, you know, they're always, you know, trying to give you signs and information and guidance and things like that. But, you know, life is busy and gets hectic, and we can miss those things, and, you know, in the mix of it all. So, you know, getting a psychic reading can help you just kind of make space for really tuning into that. And I find that those tend to be also very deep and very healing. And it's also kind of really fun to connect with your spirit guides and, you know, see what they have to say, and confirm the ways in which they've been trying to reach you, or give you support, or, you know, help meet your needs and things like that. And yeah, people really like those. So, you know, deciding what type of reading is huge. And, you know, you'll get the hang of, after you've, you know, had one or more readings, usually, like, oh, okay, right now this kind of feels like more of an astrology thing. Or, you know, this kind of feels more like I could just pull a couple tarot cards for myself. Or, you know, maybe it's time I connect with my spirit guides because I feel like I might be missing something. So after you've assessed all of those things, you know, then what it really boils down to, and this is like the most important part of it all, is the types of questions you ask during a psychic reading. And so this is the same for whether you're doing it for yourself or if you're, getting a reading from somebody else. The types of questions you ask during a psychic reading are everything. Because again, it's about the energy of what you put forth and what you're going to get back. So here's the thing, when I used to read tarot at parties and corporate events and whatever all else here in the Bay Area, I would, get random people at parties that may or may not be into, spiritual things, and they'd sit at the table and, they'd be like, all right, well, just do a reading for me. And I'd ask them, well, what do you want to know? And they'd be like, well, gee, I don't know. You just pull some cards or something. And it's like, okay, like I can do that. And, that certainly can be done. And I certainly can, link up with your spirit guides and all that kind of thing and get some good information for you for sure. But here's the thing is, the ether is a big, wide place that is larger than the world you see in front of your eyes. And, not only is it nice to your psychic to, not ask them to have to reach out into the, grand ether and pull, the straw you're looking for out of nowhere. But it's also nice to just kind of like hone it down and, make sure that you're getting the most out of this and that, your psychic has what they need to give you the most out of this. And so, it's asking the right types of questions. And I can give you some examples of what those look like. Well, first I'm going to give you some examples of what's pretty common that, people are very tempted to ask, and it's very human of us to, want to know things like, will this ever happen? Will I ever find this love? Will I, get married? Will I have children? Will I, any of those types of things? And I'm going to tell you that, like, you can ask those things and you certainly will get some, information back, whether it's from tarot cards or, your spirit guides or an astrology reading. But here's the thing is that, the future does not yet already exist, and you have, free will and personal choice. So, all of those things, are possibilities, and that's what your psychic is going to tap into, is the realm of possibility. So it's not really telling you, that it's for sure going to happen, but it's a confirmation of, this could very well happen, but ultimately it's up to you. So, we know that already, so you don't need to ask a psychic for that necessarily. And the other type of question that's pretty adjacent to that is when? When am I going to meet this love? Or when am I going to get married? Things like that. You can use numerology and you can use astrology to forecast these types of things. But I want you to notice that word that I just used, forecast. It's kind of like the weather. Evolutionary astrologers like myself aren't super into, forecasting, predicting, like, you are for certain going to find this person and get married by this time, because that's not the best use of astrology, and it's also not accurate because, like I said, the future does not yet exist and you have free will and personal choice. So, but there is something close to that you can get, and that's why I'm going to give you these types of questions that are, in my eyes, in my experience, over the last, I've been reading tarot for 20 years now, so I've been doing psychic readings for 20 years and counting. So you can get the type of information that's going to be more helpful to you by asking a little bit different of questions. And so here's what they look like. This question, how can I align with whatever it is? How can I better align with a career that's going to make me really happy? Or how can I better align with, more financial abundance? How can I better align with, greater personal health? You know, how can I align with the love of my life? Those types of things your spirit guides love to answer. These are the things that they have been, you know, giving you signs and cues and little hints and messages about that we may have been missing. And so, you know, that's when they give you the specifics of, you know, here's what you can do. If you want that, you can absolutely have that. Remember, like I said, it is in the realm of possibility, but how can you align with it? Align your energy with what you want and make it happen is what you got to do. Because at the end of the day, your spirit guides can line it up and line it up and line it up, and we can just miss it. It can go right over our heads. You know, we could be looking the other way when the love of our life is across the street. So yeah, that question, how can I align with what I want? The next question is, what is the lesson behind what I'm experiencing right now? Or where is the healing in this situation? You know, a lot of people will have had something pretty intense happen. They're like, you know, my God, like, why is this happening? You know, it kind of just feels like the universe hates me right now. Rest assured, the universe does not hate you. And neither do your spirit guides. A really good question that, you know, I feel like you can get a lot of productivity out of is, what is the lesson behind this? What is the greater lesson? Where is my learning opportunity? And, you know, where is my healing? It's something I've used myself, you know, so I feel like that's, you know, pretty beneficial when things are confusing or when you're feeling hurt about the way life is going. You know, where is the lesson? Where is my healing? Can really help. The next question is huge. Where is my block? Okay. Because people want what they want. We all do. I want things too. And so, you know, like I said, what you want is always in the realm of possibility. It's always out there in the ether somewhere. But knowing what your block is gives you power, because then you know, the thing that is hindering you from being able to get what you want. And oftentimes it's something that we're doing or not doing, and in some way that we're probably limiting ourselves, you know? So knowing that block gives us the power to kind of strategize or even ask your spirit guides, you know, like, how can I remove this block? You know, what is the remedy to this block? And, you know, that is like everything. I've seen it time and time again with all my reading clients, you know, knowing what your block is and, you know, getting a handful of different ways you could go about eliminating that block is huge. You know, you can change a pattern that's been occurring in your life, you know, maybe your entire life or maybe the last 5 years, and get things moving in a different and happier direction. Okay, so another really good question is, what is an aligned next action for me? All right, so that's like wanting to know, you know, well, here I am, this is my situation, and I know where I want to go, but I'm not sure what to do next. All right, because like I said, you have free will and personal choice. So if you just ask, what should I do next? You know, your spirit guides might be like, what should you do next? What do you want to do next? You know, because those are very loving, unbiased responses, and that's kind of their job. So a better question is, what is my next aligned action toward blank, whatever it is? You know, what is my next aligned action towards, you know, prosperity? What is my next aligned action towards, you know, inner happiness, whatever it is? And, you know, the tarot cards or your spirit guides will certainly point to you where that next aligned action is, what it is specifically. If they get vague with you, oftentimes it's because they want you to look inside of yourself and decide to brainstorm, you know, like, all right, they're saying self-love is the answer. Cute, I know that. Well, all right, so they're kind of telling you, like, brainstorm, you know, what are some new things that you could be doing to really invest in your self-love and self-worth? you know, and oftentimes it's maybe stuff we haven't been doing, stuff outside of our comfort zone, stuff we're unfamiliar with. All right, and one of the most important questions that you could ask is whatever it is, this job, this move, this, you know, change in my life, this relationship, this person, is it aligned with the highest good of all? Or is it aligned with my highest good? Is huge. Because again, if you ask your spirit guides, you know, or the tarot cards, should I or shouldn't I do this? They're gonna be like, should you or shouldn't you? But if you ask them if it's aligned with your highest good, your highest growth, and the highest happiness, then they will give you a very specific answer, because again, that's their job, is to make sure, you know, that they're guiding you towards those things. So, is it aligned with my highest good? Huge. And last but not least, is there anything I might be missing? Dear spirit guides, I'm trying my best to listen at all times. Is there anything I might be missing? And oftentimes you'd be surprised, you know. Sometimes it's like, hey, you're not missing anything. Like, good job, you know, good on you. Thanks for checking in. But sometimes they're like, oh, hey, like something about, you know, needing more rest. Or, you know, maybe it's time for you to go on a vacation, or maybe it's time for a job change, or, you know, something like that. Because they're really just trying to, you know, line you up with your greatest happiness. But asking them those questions, they love. Because, you know, they're on the other side, you know, rooting for you, trying to line things up. And, you know, sometimes we miss a lot of their direction. I can't even imagine what it's like to be a spirit guide. But anyways, I'm sure it's a fun experience. So, anything I might be missing? Is there anything I might be missing? You know, if you're feeling like something's up and you just can't quite put your finger on what it is, or, you know, you feel like you might be in need of a change, but you're not really sure like what that means specifically at this time, you know, ask, you know, if there's anything you might be missing. You know, is there something right in front of you that you might not be catching? Because there's a lot of things happening in life at all times. All right. Well, those are my guidelines for how to get the most out of any psychic reading, whether you're doing the reading for yourself or you're getting a reading from somebody else. I hope they were helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to write them in the comments. You're always welcome to send me a message. You can also find me on Facebook, Revolutionary Mystic, Instagram, Revolutionary Mystic, and I have a free Facebook group called Revolutionary Mystics. My name is Megan Alexandria. You can find me at www.revolutionarymystic.com. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.